Hey folks, it's Mikhail from Soul-utions, and I wanted to share with you that I'm very concerned right now with all that's erupting in our nation, with the violence, the hostility, the ignorance, and the pain that is obviously at the root of this. And very interestingly enough, I've always considered myself a very caring, kind, and caring person, and that's been my identity for most of my life. And just recently, last year, in the late part of last year, I had this wave of energy come up, and it was anger that had been repressed for many years. And it was triggered by family and by some friends, and it kind of came to a head. And it didn't fit with my image and identity as a map-making magician, as a kind, caring healer, and a teacher of inspiration, and all the things that my identity and image has indicated who I am so far in this life. And even though I've worked a lot with the shadow work, and I've realized that there is hostility in me, passive aggressive from time to time, anger, I would let myself over the years have a little bit of permission to bring some of the anger up and not feel so guilty about it, not judge it, not shove it down. But recently, as I mentioned just a few months ago, this wave of energy erupted in me, and it kind of forced me to look at this hostility that was buried deep, coming out of the depth of my soul. And as it emerged and as it came forward, I realized it was tied into specific lifetimes that I've been aware of for many years that Lazarus brought to my attention maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I've always remembered those lifetimes as far as, trying to connect with it from a distance. But now it felt like I was feeling it. That I was not only feeling it, but I was experiencing it as that energy of hostility was kind of like being drained out and drained off of those lifetimes, which are concurrent, as we all know, and coming through me in the present moment. Like I finally stopped judging my hostility, and I allowed it to surface. Again, being triggered from the outside circumstances, it wasn't something, unfortunately, that I chose to go into by conscious choice, which is what I'm going to encourage you all to do now, because it was, for me, a resonance shakedown. This is something that, as I'm lifting my vibration, preparing for 2021, preparing for all the compassion and love of who I truly am, that this old buried hostility needs to be released, needs to be resolved, so that I can fully step into it. So it took me probably about 4 to 5 days of being conscious of it, feeling those feelings, going into the anger, letting myself, without judgment, letting myself just feel it and experience it and sit in the pain. And I realized these people I was so angry at wasn't really them. It wasn't them. I realized that by holding this image of being the caring, the kind, the nice guy, blah, 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 fill in the blank, that I was really angry at my adolescent self who performed and tried to be this way for everyone else, to try to get their approval, to get their love. Why was I being so nice? Why was I being so compassionate? Why was I being so kind? Because I desperately wanted their approval. And when I realized that, when I saw that, when I saw that hidden agenda now very consciously, I was aware that, getting approval was something I liked to do, but not to this depth and level. And that adolescent in me was so hostile and so angry. And I, for the first time in 30 years of being in metaphysics and working on myself, I had to really forgive and connect and understand with compassion, connect with that adolescent, and just not try to fix him, not try to repress him, not try to tell him it's okay to feel this way, but just to sit with him and to let him vent and process and to feel it and keep forgiving, understanding, and going back to compassion. And as I did, there was a major shift. I did some shadow work around this. It was triggered here and there, but I was very conscious, again, about 4 to 5 days where this was just coming to a head, and then it shifted. And I felt this wave of peace, this wave of inner strength, this wave of knowing and trusting that myself, but trusting that everything was going to work out okay. And the anxiety and the judgments, oh boy, that was one of my favorite ways to vent my passive aggressive hostility, was through my judgments of myself and of others. And as I recognized and realized and forgave myself and worked on healing those scars of judgment from my past. And it happened quickly because of all the years of work that I did with Lazarus. It's not like I, had to start from square one like most of you here listening won't need to do that. But I want to send you this reminder because as all of us collectively are compassionate, caring individuals, what I learned about the shadow from Lazarus years ago was, if we identify, we can own the light side of being a compassionate individual, right? Yeah, I'm compassionate. I care about people. From the pain that I've gone through, I really do care. We have to also look at the dark side of compassion. The light side of that coin is compassion. The dark side of it, the dark shadow, is hostility. Because in order to be in this world of duality, we need to have both. But I've focused so much of attention on the compassion that I have repressed and denied my own hostility. And I had to recognize, acknowledge, find that, and not just make it, oh, no big deal. I had to own it and feel it and look at the ramifications throughout my life of this passive-aggressive hostility that sometimes wasn't so passive, but to own it and to let it be a part of me. As an example, what is common to both your compassion and your hostility? What is the common core of this paradox? Is I care. I care. I care about people. I care about the world. I care about the state that our nation is in right now. And because I care, the light side is compassion. The dark side is hostility. You don't get hostile about something you don't care about. As a reminder for most of you, maybe this is new for some of you, how do you work with what's going on in our country right now? How would you step into resolving and doing your part? As we know, everything is energy. Everything in our world is energy. And we are all connected as energy. So when I take my hostility and I shove it down and repress it and shove it into my unconscious, it goes into the collective unconscious and feeds the rest of humanity. So when I can own and recognize and accept my hostility and bring it up into my awareness rather than down and out, and own it and recognize, forgive, and release it, let it go, then it no longer is there feeding the collective, no longer there feeding the consensus. And that is what I want to encourage each of you and all of you to do, and to look at the subtle ways your hostility has played out, whether it's passive-aggressive behaviors, whether it's judgment, whether it's criticism, cynicism, whether it's jealousy, envy, and rage. If those feelings have been surfacing in the last couple of months, it's because you probably too are going through a resonance shakedown. And instead of avoiding it and waiting for a crisis to erupt like I went through, I encourage you to step into it consciously, to go into that dark shadow, to face the hostility of that adolescent or that teenager, or even just the shadow itself that is the collection from all parts of you of that bottled up hostility that you've judged, that you've repressed, that doesn't fit into your image, your identity as a spiritual being. Especially as you are such a loving, caring, compassionate human being, it's hard to make those two worlds fit together. But when you do, there is this healing that takes place. There's a sense of inner strength and power that comes from owning your aggression. Aggression in and of itself is not negative. It's part of masculine energy. And allow yourself to go into the aggression, to, with compassion and caring, go in to discover and reveal within yourself your own hostility, and to process it, to feel it with intensity, to express it, writing letters, doing whatever it takes, going into meditation, get the baseball bat and go through your home and just bust everything in your home, whatever it takes to move the energy rather than down and into the collective, up and out, and express it, to release it, to transform it, and to heal it. And you can tap into the magic of metamorphosis as you do this. This is one of the secrets to this year, the year of metamorphosis, and to transform your consciousness is to do this shadow work, to take the hostility that all of us have, especially after being bottled up in our homes and disconnected from friends and not being able to socialize for the last year, almost 9 months. It's time to take that energy, to process it, to work through it, and to get back into alignment with your soul. That the shadow is a part of our soul. And the solutions to resolve this hostility in our world comes from owning your own hostility and working with your soul to resolve it, to go into it, to feel it, to own it, to take responsibility, to process it, to release it, so that it's not there feeding those who are still unconscious in our world and just letting this drive them to do crazy, painful, violent things that are going on in our world. So I encourage each of you as a reminder, and I hope it helps you. And if you have any questions, please hit me up on the instant messenger. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'm definitely going to do an online Zoom course on the metamorphosis, the magic of metamorphosis, that we can work together, as we've been so isolated on our own, just to come together as a Zoom group to support each other and to help move through some of the energies that are going to be very predominant as we transform from that caterpillar into the butterfly, as we surrender. The caterpillar never fought, it just surrendered and turned inward and trusted the process. And that is what we're going through right now, is to trust the process. And as you can move through your hostility, as you can transform this energy, you will find that the world events, the reflection of your consciousness, will be felt and heard. And that, my friends, I think is how you make your voice heard in the world. That's how you make your voice heard. As we stand up as magicians, as it is our dawning of our day, it's time for us to do that. And it's time for us to set in motion the dream in the world. And we have to clear out and transform this muck and mire of pain that has been in the hearts of humankind for so very long. Sign up for my newsletter so you won't miss out on any of the events, and to emerge a brand new magician. The metamorphosis has begun.